Hello and welcome to the Next Level Supply Chain with Gs1 Us, a podcast in which we explore the mind-bending world of global supply chain, covering topics such as automation, innovation, unique identity, and more. I'm your co-host, Reed.
And I'm Liz.
And welcome to the show. Welcome, Liz. I'm super excited. Well, I guess we should probably tell everyone what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So this podcast, the Next Level of Supply Chain, we're going to talk about all things supply chain, how to take it to the next level. We are going to share secrets and stories, insight and expertise of hot button supply chain topics like data quality, which is really exciting, even though it might not sound like it is, inventory management, technology, innovation, traceability. That is just a topic that just continues to come up over and over. Sustainability, unique and persistent identification, and how the standards can really make that all possible.
Yeah, I mean, data quality just, for some folks, it's like, oh, I'm going to the library, but I'm a technologist and I love all cutting edge technology things, and data quality for automation is a must. I mean, it's just a must. If you want it to work, you want it to run, your systems have to be up to date. But I'm super excited because we're going to be talking with so many different types of people throughout the industry. This podcast will be every other week, and we'll have a different topic all the time. But we're going to be talking with industry leaders, thought leaders, startup companies, folks from Gs1 US, potentially folks from Gs1 Global and other places. There's no holdback. I mean, we will definitely be speaking just anything related to supply chain. And with that, Liz, maybe we should give people kind of a background of who we are. So I'm going to let you go first.
Absolutely. So I am Senior Director, Community Engagement here at Gs1 US. I specialize, or my focus is in supply chain, traceability, but really my focus has been food. So I'm learning so much about what else is out there from all of these different industries where traceability is required for success. I come from the supply chain, from consumer packaged goods industry. I spent 20 years, and that makes me feel very old just when you say something.
You are not at all. You started at 14, like it's all good.
Thanks. Exactly. So 20 years of experience in the CPG industry. I started in the packaging world. So I have a packaging engineering degree, which really opened my eyes to all things physical in the supply chain. And it has kind of moved into this world of visibility. So you take a thing and you identify it, and it gives you the power to see and share that information. So I'm really excited to be here, to work at this organization. One of the things I really enjoy is facilitating the collaboration of best practices and the guidelines that help us all come together to improve product traceability and supply chain visibility. And so that's what I do in my everyday world. But this podcast gives us the ability to actually expand that into this, like you said, Reed, into academia, to solution partners, to people that we've heard from and know, but also people we have not heard from in these different areas. So I could not be more excited.
Yeah. It's the times that we're in right now are, I mean, I don't know how to describe it except saying it's super exciting, which I don't want to say anymore right now, Liz. All right. So we got to stop with the excitement piece, but the world is changing and we are in the middle of a significant digital disruption. I come from a background of 25 years in IT, Liz, mostly on the sales side of it and the implementation side of solutions. It was selling for Xerox back when people had multiple networks, not just one kind. We had Banyan Vine and Token Rings and Apple Talk and Novell. These are all different networks that didn't talk to one another. And then I went to a small startup company, and then I went to Cisco Systems, which brought, Internet Protocol or IP to the masses. And we were selling routers and switches. And when I told my parents I was selling routers, my dad's like, I didn't know you were into woodworking. I'm like, no, Dad, these are digital things that do packet transfer. Anyway, he didn't really get it at the time, but eventually it kind of caught up with him. But I've had a real privilege of being on the cutting edge of technology with IP telephony and large data sets with Hadoop before it was popular with folks, and then machine learning and unsupervised machine learning solutions. And I've seen it leveraged in healthcare and finance and government, and I'm just so excited being on. There I go again, Liz.
Yep.
We're going to have to work on our lexicon here if we're going to have any type of good podcast ratings. But in all seriousness, being on the other side of it now, like working for GS1 US and going after industry and supporting industry as a whole, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's just such a different perspective for me. Before it was competitive advantage. And that's still really important, but it's also how can we grow as a society, as a globe, right? And we saw that with the pandemic and efficiencies of supply chain versus resiliencies of supply chain. So here at GS1 US, I'm the Vice President of Innovation and Partnerships. And we look at the cross section of technology and the use of standards. Where can we leverage more standards? Where can certain technologies disrupt certain standards that are in place? How can we migrate to and fro and all those things? And then on the partnership side, it's just that. It's partnering with solution providers, with academia, with startup companies, with innovation teams, and looking at all new things. And we're going to talk about that through the podcast episodes as we go along, such things as circular economy and standards for 3D imaging and computer vision, and next level data carriers. What's beyond the 1D and 2D barcode? And we all know about RFID, but what more is out there? And how about this one? We actually have a team that's working with some groups that are leveraging DNA as data carriers for produce and different types of foods and materials to track them for provenance. And we even have an experiment going on to see if we can track it through the digestive system, to tell where the lettuce actually came from after it's been eaten and digested. So little creepy at times, but also very exciting at times, Liz. So Liz, why don't you tell the group, they're probably, we haven't even gotten to it, but tell them a little bit more about GS1 US.
So yes, GS1 US is the home of the most widely used standards in business operations.
I like to say we're the largest identification company that no
there
one
you
knows
go.
about, but that's just me.
No, absolutely, Reed. And it started with what everybody internally, and now you're all going to hear it, is that humble barcode. That barcode that is sitting on the soda can or the water bottle or the box of pens that you have in your office that allows the checkouts to go beep. And it has just evolved so much in those 40 plus years to have this suite, this system of standards that allows supply chains to really thrive. It allows e-commerce to have this physical and digital, what is the word I'm looking for? Convergence. And it's a global standard. So we call it the global language of business, and it allows everybody to speak that same language. So instead of French and English and Spanish, we're all speaking so that trading partners, that supply chains can be more efficient, and that handshake of information doesn't need, and I'm not a technologist, so I am going to say a cross-reference table, and I'm sure there's a much more technology-based word to go for that, but to eliminate the need for a cross-reference table, but just to speak that same language when you start talking about a product identification. It's as simple as that. And our purpose really is to branch out. So this is already many places in the grocery space, in the food service space, in apparel and general merchandise and healthcare. What else is out there? Let's bring industry together. And that's our role, bring industry together to figure out where the problems are. Let's bring clarity and collaboration together. And this sounds kind of cliche, but let's bring everybody together to provide a more safer and sustainable world. And I don't think it's cliche because it's possible. We've seen it happen. We can just keep expanding it by using something that folks are already using today, it's really cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you the humble barcode, because as we stated already, I've been at this for 25 plus years. And I remember going to the grocery store and they actually still punched in how much it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, then they moved to barcode scanning and then they moved to self checkout. And it hasn't been that long. I mean, 40 years seems like a lot, but then it's not a lot. And there's so much more to go through. And we're seeing that. I talked about it before. The times we're in right now, the late 90s into early 2000, we had, the internet and the .com boom and bust. But now we're into this, internet 3.0, and e-commerce through the pandemic has just exploded. But it's not without its challenges as well. And the grocery industry is seeing that. And this is where the standards really come into play. And if, I always equated it to when I was in IT, we had all these different types of networks. Well, the networks didn't speak the same language until we got to the internet protocol and had a standard for that communication. Then the internet exploded. So when you start talking about commerce, and we're all dealing with it, right? So we're going to talk about that, but we're all feeling it right now. And standards help with this. It helps the manufacturers. It helps the distributors. It helps the consumer. We're seeing it with online fraud, right? Where somebody puts a product online and they say it's this and that and the other thing, and it has a photo with it, but we're taking it at face value. When we have standards like a global trade item number, we can reference back and do different things. And then there are other standards out there that we'll talk about. But yes, I like to say to my family and friends, I'm Reed Jackson and I work for Gs1 Us, and we identify companies, things, and locations. And I say it just like that. I like to have the fun radio voice, but that's really what GS1 does globally. We identify companies, things, and locations, and we do a lot more than just a GTIN or a global trade item number or an EAN or a UPC that most people know about. But it's not just the barcode company is what I'll leave it at. And Liz, hopefully our guests will get to learn that every other week as we produce more podcasts.
Absolutely. And I think that you're going to not only learn, but I think we're going to learn from their perspective what the standards can do that we may not have even scratched the surface. I mean, last year, if you would have told me that potentially a DNA could be encoded with an identifier that could track through the digestive system, I would have said absolutely no way. But man, it's really happening. And it's just such a powerful thing watching all of these different players in the industry come together and solve these problems. And Reed, you talked to retail grocery last year, and we've talked to so many of those organizations. Hindsight's 2020, and the ones that had some very just basic standards in place were able to be so much more resilient and agile because they knew where their products were in a supply chain that was flipped upside down in a very fast way. So I think that, through these podcasts, we can share some of those stories and also learn from experts in these different industries about what problems there are and how the standards have helped or can help. I'm really looking forward. I was going to say excited. I'm looking forward to hearing different viewpoints from different industries and and also sharing what we're working on internally that can be utilized outside. So yeah, I'm excited. We're gonna have to get a thesaurus here.
Yeah, we are. There's no
But
doubt about it.
how the toilet paper broke the supply chain. I mean, who would have thought we'd be here talking about that?
Yeah.
So it's
I'm glad that you brought up, that because we truly are looking for others to bring ideas to us
yep.
and to bring challenges to us and to call things out as well, because without it, we just don't know. My group just ran and sponsored, a startup lab pitch competition. We actually give out $10,000, to the first place winner. And it was a company called Strela Biotech. And we're going to talk to them in one of our future episodes. But, Catherine, Sizoff, who is the co-founder and is out of UPenn, young, brilliant person. But, she just graduated and was, reading an article or something and heard that a third of all food in the world is thrown out. And she's like, that's just tragic and something has to be done. So instead of applying for her master's and graduate that she was going to, she went back to the lab and figured out a way to create sensors that can detect the off-gassing of fruits that tell other fruits to be ripe. And then she's implementing that into supply chains so that better produce gets to the tables and to the shelves at the right time. And just fascinating stuff. But like, that's what I'm talking about. People that come up with these new ideas. And the other thing we find out is new ideas are fantastic, but don't develop them in a vacuum, because sometimes you come up with stuff, and we see this right now with circular economy. We need circular economy, right? Recycle, reuse, repurpose, resell. These are all great things, but they come with their challenges as well. And we need to talk as a group and as industries together and across industries to help out, because we need more recycling. And we've all seen the challenges to recycling, and that's happening. So, Liz, I think, we could stay here and talk about this forever, but now it's really time just to, let everyone know you can find this Next Level Supply Chain with Gs1 Us podcast at any of the places that you subscribe to podcasts. We would love for you to like us and recommend us and to leave comments, good, bad, or indifferent, just respectfully, please. We want to get better at what we're doing, but we also, want you to get involved and to spread the word. Our first guest is going to be Sanjay Sarma, who is the VP of Open Learning from MIT. And Sanjay is going to be talking to us about how the toilet paper broke supply chain. And I'm super excited. We've been talking with him and his team and in the labs up at the Auto ID lab up at MIT for quite some time. And it's just, they're so far advanced, but at the same time, they come back to what's happening right now. And sometimes the simplest solutions have the biggest effect. And sometimes it's the simplest problem that has the biggest effect too. So I'm super excited to be talking with Sanjay in our first episode. Liz, is there anything else you want to say before we close out here?
No, I think that you brought up a great point, though. In the comments, also, if you have a topic or a guest suggestion, there'll also be a link to the GS1 Next Level Supply Chain website. Please let us know. We would just love to hear suggestions for guests, for topics, etc. So Reed and I can share more of the standards with you and learn more.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need the help with the ideas. We have some, but I mean, we just learned today. Our vocabulary is limited to excellent or excited. I'm super excited about this. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, listen, life is it's limited for all of us, right? It's not a dress rehearsal. We all get one chance, and I think Liz and I are really dedicated to making this place a better place for everyone and for industry. And we really want the ideas to come in, and we can grab our teams and start to track some of this stuff down and see what we can do. I mean, that's why we're here servicing industry and see what we can do. So that's all that I have to say for today. I'm looking forward to our episode in a week with Sanjay Sarma and how toilet paper broke the supply chain. Liz, that's all for me. You got anything?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing from him as well. He's a dynamic speaker, great information, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining the Next Level Supply Chain with Gs1 Us. If you enjoyed today's show, you can subscribe to our feed or explore more great episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to share and follow us on social media. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.